called the Illuminati. This shadowy group has a very real secret. This is a story of money, murder, and mystery right here in the Valley.
I have tried to pretend that everything is okay, but everything is not okay.
We will make a lot of money. We are all living in the world they've created. Other organizations that shall remain nameless.
How far are you willing to go to change the world?
You must leave. If you do not disperse, you may be arrested and/or subject to other police action. Use of riot control agents and/or less lethal munitions.
How far are you willing to go to change the world?
You had better wake up and understand that there are people who are guiding your life and you don't even know it.
If you think about media and technology, they're delivering content that is shaping our society. They're shaping our politics, they're shaping our national discourse, and most of all, they're shaping our children's brains and lives and emotions.
We estimate there's somewhere north of 1 billion people who use the internet every single day. That's just a reach that hasn't existed before in terms of media.
Our kids today live on Facebook and cell phones. The diversity of the platforms means that those images are impacting your kid 24/7, and whatever restrictions existed when we were growing up simply don't exist today.
Girls get the message from very early on that what's most important is how they look, that their value, their worth, depends on that.
I got a call one day from an attorney woman I knew, and she said, "Would you like to meet one of the Rockefellers?" I said, "Sure, I'd love to." And we became friends, and he began to divulge a lot of things to me. So he said to me one night, he said that there's going to be an event there, and out of that event, you're going to see, we're going to go into Afghanistan, so we can run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We're going to go into Iraq to take the oil and establish a base in the Middle East, and we're going to go into Venezuela and try and get rid of Chavez. And the first two they've accomplished. Chavez they didn't accomplish. And he said you're going to see guys going into caves looking for looking for people that they're never going to find. You know, he was laughing about the fact that you have this war on terror. There's no real enemy. He's talking about how by having this war on terror, you can never win it because it's an eternal war. And so you can always keep taking people's liberties away. And I said, how are you going to convince people that this war is real? He said, but the media. The media can convince everybody it's real. I mean, you know, it's just that you keep talking about things. You keep saying it over and over and over again, and eventually people believe it. You know, you created the Federal Reserve in 1913 through lies. You create 9/11, which is another lie. Through 9/11, then you're fighting a war on terror, and now all of a sudden you go into Iraq, which was another lie, and now they're going to do Iran. You know, and it's all one thing leading to another, leading to another, leading to another. Now, I would say, what are you doing this for? What's the point of this thing? You have all the money in the world you ever want. You have all the power. I said, you know, you're hurting people. It's not a good thing. And he would say, what do you care about the people for? Take care of yourself and you take care of your family. And then I said to him, what are the ultimate goals here? He said, the ultimate goal is to get everybody in this world chipped with the RFID chip and have all money be on those chips and everything on those chips. And if anybody wants to protest what we do or violate what we want, we just turn off their chip.
We have a Florida family who are really pioneers in a brave new world. They have volunteered to be the first ever to have microchip identification devices implanted into their body.
After 9/11, I was really concerned with the security of my family.
I wouldn't mind having something planted permanently in my arm that would identify me.
Most people still today think that all entertainment to do with movies, drama, is therefore nothing more than their entertainment. It never ever was that case.
Of course, television can't perform such miracles as this, yet. But perhaps there's no harm wishing that it could.
The greatest social messages are promoted through movies and drama, high drama, through the fixation of emotive sequences, emotional sequences, not logical, factual sequences, but pushing points across in an emotional way which register and fix in the mind. So emotional content is very, very important, rather than going through an actual discussion or an argument using logic and facts. There's no debate. And when you're being downloaded through fiction, your guard is down, the sensor part of your brain is not in action. It isn't saying, yes, I agree with this, I disagree with that, as you would in a debate or a lecture. You're actually in an alpha state, being completely downloaded with new ideas. About 100 years ago, this big organization with many branches, they wanted to rule the world basically using Britain as a nucleus of a system, an embryo, which also was going to be joined with the US under the Anglo-American establishment, wrote about the kind of culture and the changes of culture over a 100-year period that they would actually design, implement and bring in. And H.G. Wells talked about it too. He talked about arenas. He says arenas could be put up across the world for sports, for instance. Now at that time, sports was something that children, school children were into. Adults became adults and got onto adult things. So it was unimaginable at the time that people could actually believe that there was even a need for adult sports and entertainment, never mind having arenas built across the world. But he said we can do this, and foist basically a sports culture for the males. Using a tribal system. We're all tribal to an extent, that's why we even bother to vote for a tribal leader. This is well understood, that's why we're supplied with these leaders. And because the average man was to become more disengaged from his own destiny as the expert class arose, it was decided that the males would get their outlet basically, gradually becoming helpless as males through sports. Therefore they'd have a tribal team they could identify with. They would cheer them on as they were winning. In their own personal lives they were getting nowhere. They were getting disenfranchised in a sense as experts took over decision making for them in all kinds of fields. So this was psychology at use, planned before they even implemented the sports. When radio came along, of course, they used that to the maximum. Sports for the men, soaps basically for the women. And then in came television, as I say, with its alpha state, its hypnotic state. And sure enough, around the 1960s, really, 50s and 60s, it took off. It really, really took off. And men became glued on Saturday nights to the sports shows. A culture industry, which is called by its own the culture industry. The Soviet Union had a department called the culture industry. Their actors and directors were called the cultural leaders. Because they would, like a computer, people are like computers, all you have to do is keep giving them new updates every so often, and you can change an entire country or a nation or a block of nations. We're all getting the same upgrades at the same time along certain paths. Today we call it political correctness. Most people want to belong to their peer group. They want to be the same as everyone else when it comes to opinions. In fact, they judge their own personal sanity by bouncing ideas off their neighbours and friends who will answer back and agree on these same topics in kind. It doesn't matter if the topics or what you're given are facts or utter nonsense, as long as everyone agrees at the same time. You'll say, well, I'm sane, and your friends will all agree because they've had the same information given to them. If it's on TV and a famous face says something, then it must be true. He doesn't have to show you facts or anything else. You've been brought up with these faces. That's why they keep these guys on television into their 70s and 80s. You've grown up with this father figure who's on television every night at 6 o'clock, in your house, in your room, staring right at you. And he's a father figure. Would he tell you a lie? So you naturally never suspect him. And this same man will lead you through new topics. He'll introduce experts on the topics. They'll have a little summary at the end of every talk, and you are now left with the conclusion that's presented to you. You don't arrive at it, it's given to you, and it's good enough for you. We're programmed today perfectly, just like machines. We tie this in with the Brzezinski. Brzezinski said in 2 Ages. Now this guy was way up with the NSA. He's a master geopolitician. He admits he works in 20, 50-year periods to do with geopolitics in other countries. But he said himself, the public will shortly be unable to think or reason for themselves. He was meaning by the form of information that was given to them, the type, the formulas that were in use then in the 1970s. He says, eventually they'll be unable to think or reason for themselves. And eventually, he said, they will expect the media to do all their thinking and reasoning for them. Well, that's happened today. That's why people today can't think outside of the programming from television. This is a scientific dictatorship which Bertrand Russell said, and the Huxleys said, both Aldous and Julian Huxley said they would bring in the scientifically controlled society.
We are in process of developing a whole series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, who have always existed and presumably always will exist, to get people actually to love their servitude. This seems to me the ultimate in malevolent revolution, shall we say. And this is a problem which has interested me for many years, and about which I wrote 30 years ago a fable, The Brave New World, which is essentially the account of a society making use of all the devices at that time available, and some of the devices which I imagined to be possible, making use of them in order to, first of all, to standardize the population, to iron out inconvenient human differences, to create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system. A number of techniques about which I talked seem to be here already, and that there seems to be a general movement in the direction of this kind of ultimate revolution, this method of control by which people can be made to enjoy a state of affairs which, by any decent standard, they ought not to enjoy. This, I mean, the enjoyment of servitude.
Saldonta camera, southeast, Monday, March 17. There you go, planet shows up right there, right here. can see it coming. That's the reason why we got these red skies. I'm going to zoom it in. As you can tell, it's going to turn really red as the sun starts going this way. See that? And the loop restarts. One more time. Very clear right there. Now I'm going to stop this a moment and I'm going to play this loop. As you can see, the sun just went by, but the planet turns really red from the bottom part. Like something is shining it backwards. The sun went this way. The sun is not lighting it anymore. But then there's something from the bottom that we can't see shining on it. So we have this image. As you can see also, the sun is going to come from this side, but something on the bottom over here is making this planet look red. So you can see it has a kind of like a reddish side on this side. But then, let me play it. As he goes and he travels this way, the sun passes over it. As you can see, it starts getting red. It's like something is in here, but we don't see that. I'm going to try this camera at night, see if I see any difference. I'm also going to change the location. Right now we're in the southeast camera. Let me go to the east camera, see if I could see anything. Nothing there. Wow, that's amazing. Let me look at the southwest. All of the cameras on the Alaska side are very cloudy today on that area. Okay, so this is nothing here. Let me pick another camera in this area. Zoom in. Let me try this camera, see if it's cloudy. Okay, we don't have, and this one doesn't have any east camera. Let me check another camera. That one only has one. It's glowy. It's cloudy today. Two, but they're both cloudy. Cloudy. Oh, northwest camera. Southwest, northeast. No sun. As you can see, there's something red in the bottom that we can't see what it is. There's something red down there. Let me try another camera over here. No. This is southeast. Oh, there you go. Let's see what happens here. You can see that is red. What in the world is that? East. Same thing. There's something red down there. NIBIRU camera. Too cloudy. Too cloudy. My favorite camera is cloudy today, which is this one up here. Okay. It's cloudy. Try. This is my favorite camera. Gives me the best shots, but today is very cloudy. Sad. I think they brought the camera down because usually it's not that. Usually you can see the little part that I always see. Not today. Come on, give me a good shot. As you can see, it's always red now. For some reason. It's cloudy today. Cloudy, cloudy, cloudy. Way too cloudy. Come on, one clear camera. Huh. Sad. Cloudy. Cloudy. Super cloudy. 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 A little more clear. There you go. Wow. Can I do that? Southeast. Got the ace camera. There you go. Oh yeah. And you see that red? That's the shining of something from the bottom. See that? We play that again. There's something that's coming that's red. Look at this. Old Harvard camera, northeast, east, southwest. Not there. Well, one more try. South, all cloudy today. Cloudy, cloudy, cloudy. Really, really cloudy. And let's see if we could get lucky here. As you can see, there's something red from the bottom. Let me try this. What in the world is that? Weird. North. No sun. And my favorite cameras, they're all cloudy today. Very cloudy. What in the world is that? Oh. Oops, this one looks like there was a sun here today. Okay, same thing. The whole bottom, for some reason, so red. That's been happening. There he goes right there. I see something. Okay, restart. Let me go to that shot. It's there and it's moving and it's moving. Restart. Well, that's it for today.
There are only two emotions that humankind experiences: fear and love. All other emotions branch either directly or indirectly from these two emotions. Fear has a long and slow frequency vibration to it, while love has a very rapid and high frequency. To show that vibration is the very foundation of existence, Hans Jene developed what is known as cymatics in the 1940s to show that when vibrations of sound are passed through a form of media, there is a set pattern that will follow. When the frequency increases, the media develops into a more complex pattern. Precisely what is happening to our Earth and to humanity. There are 64 possible codes of amino acids in our DNA structure made from 4 elements: carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. By any means of logic, we should have all 64 codes activated within our DNA structure. Yet we presently only have 20 active codes.
And these 64 possibilities, it appears that only 20 of these codes are turned on right now for us, the 20 amino acids. There is a switch that turns off and turns on where those coding sites lie, and that the switch for that turning off and turning on is what we call emotion. And this is the first genetic pattern. The information, this is amazing. This is the first time we've ever had a hard digital link between emotion and genetics.
It's important to understand because another researcher named Vladimir Popanov measured tiny particles of light called photons inside a vacuum tube. The photons were scattered as expected. A sample of DNA was then entered into the vacuum tube and they measured the photons again. They found that the particles of light aligned themselves along the axis of the DNA. Then, as they removed the DNA sample, the photons remained aligned to the same form of the DNA, even though no DNA was present. This is what is known as the phantom DNA experiment. Science now bridges a very important gap between physical and ethereal, or spiritual. Our emotions directly affect the structure of our DNA, which directly shapes the physical world we experience every day. So the messages left by the ancients that we've explained here were more than prophecies about a one-world government or a new world order. We now understand why the study of the heavenly bodies were so important. The rotation and orbit of all that makes up our universe serves as a clock to map changes and transitions. Then the ancients understand that the change of the heavenly bodies were a mirror to the changes of all existence.
June 4th, 2017, and oh my gosh, I was doing some analysis of the H1, and you go back and you look at the older images, and I've been finding all kinds of stuff, but this one just blew me away. Look at how there's almost like a face-type coronal ejection coming from the sun, let alone all the stuff that we pointed out in the beginning of the video. And I'm just here to tell you, man, we don't know everything. And when we see stuff like this, it suggests that there are powers that have been at this a lot longer than we have, and, you know, it's time to pay attention. Oh my God, isn't this just an amazing image right here, guys? What the hell? It looks like a guy's face, for crying out loud, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, that image to the left. Anyway, let's get on with the rest of this stuff. Just more weirdness to come. This is going to be a good episode today, so stay tuned. Check out this image from the Alaska Volcano Observatory at the webcam. Don't even try it, man. Yeah. You know, those can't be lens flares, you guys. You know why? Because there's no light to be a lens flare. Let's play with this image a little bit while I got you here. I mean, it's compelling enough to me just to look at it. But, wow. Holy God. Look at that. Yep. Pretty soon they're going to be seeing it, guys, and then the fuse is going to start burning. So make sure you're prepared. That's all I got to say. And speaking of preparation, we're going to be having obviously our big thrival events. We don't believe in just surviving. We want to thrive. The human race wants to thrive, so we're going to start setting out our plans for that on August 4th and 5th in Boise, Idaho, and on 25th, 26th in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Make sure you click on the link below, and make sure you reserve your tickets because they go up in price to $129 from $99 on June 15th. Don't forget about that. And then also WSO Live has new content today. So it's going to be a good day for you if you're a WSO Live WSO person. Anyway, back to this. Yep. I don't know what to say about this. Here's part of the collective science that we do at WSO. One of our subscribers, I just love this guy. He just got out of the hospital from a stroke, but he is diligently keeping compass readings. And we can actually see what we look for in these compass readings are angle difference between true north and magnetic north, and then the sunset degrees, and if it's, you know, difference off of what it should be. So we look at the sunrise, sunset, we look at true angle of north, and then the angle difference, right? Well, the first thing you notice is that our sunsets vary all over the place, and we don't even start to look at them now anymore until they're over 30 degrees, and that's why it highlights them for me, and we can look at them. We're looking at April 2017. So the sun is bouncing all over the place versus where it's supposed to be. But what I really want to look at here is what happened on the 17th or on the 22nd of April. Let me get this kind of squared away in here so you can see it better. And I hate it when I have to do bars. So anyway, here we go. It's a 4:22, and this day it was not only did we have a just wild variation in sunrise and lots of complaints, lots of concern from the audience. I couldn't wait till we got this data. But our true north versus magnetic north went completely off the charts. It was not in that 1 degree range anymore. And for a period of time during that day, it was a very, very, very unusual reading. Coming now into May and looking through May, there wasn't anything that really were of over concern in terms of magnetic versus true. But we did have a couple of very intense degree days where the sun was not setting where it was supposed to set. It was setting in all different places. And so on the one hand, we have this physical, manifestation of us bouncing around relative to the sun, or they're adjusting the sun. And then on the second hand, we actually are looking at magnetics. And some days those two things come together, and 4:22 is one of those days. That's why I was looking at it earlier. Anyway, I just want to let you guys go for the day. I hope you had a great weekend. There's a lot of stuff coming up for WSO Live. It's going to be a full week, lots of information, lots of content. We're going to be interviewing several new people, Kevin Annette among them, worldwide pedophilia guy. It's going to be on Deep State Blues. We're going to be talking to Matthew Rogers again next week to have a session and see what's going on in the UK. So just stay tuned, man. This channel, there's lots going on, and I'm just so glad that you're along for the ride. And we live in an exciting time. Don't let anybody fool you. I have the strongest faith that we are going to overcome as a species, and we're going to make our way. And we're going to do it with the help of the true Creator, the Great Spirit, Grandfather, the Father. Bye.
They had confirmation of it, and they've been preparing ever since. Now I think we're within a couple of years, maybe this next year, don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, I can't tell the future. I'm just saying that the signs that we're seeing on Earth tells me that this item has to be close. I would say that it's no more than 5 years away, probably less than 2. It may even show up this next, put it as, we need to pay attention each March and April that's coming up. And, because that's its exit point. And this time, the biblical record says that it's going to be the worst time in all of Earth history. So that, since it only passed close to Earth 4 times in its past, the scriptural accounts is alluding to a very close passing of it again. So we should see it maybe, I would think that they'd let us see it anywhere from 30 to 90 days out, but the internet will be down. People probably won't be texting each other or sending pictures. We're seeing the orbit of the moon on Saturn warped. We're seeing the orbit of our own moon stretched. It's called perturbations. That can only happen if you have an object that's fairly close. And put it this way, let's say if someone would say it's 16 years away. Well, if we have the effects of what we're seeing right now and it's 16 years away, I would hate to see it when it gets close. Because it would be so severe that it doesn't have to pass close to us. But according to the past records, you can look in the biblical records as well as other places. You're going to see what's common is a 7-year drought. 7 years or longer. And you see that there's when it's mentioning double eclipse, that can't happen in the natural. That takes a third object to give you 2 eclipses in the same time period. Because the moon is what causes a solar eclipse, and then the sun and earth is what causes the moon to have an eclipse. You can't have them both at the same time. It's automatically describing they had to have a larger object that give you 3 hours of darkness, because the moon can only give you 7.3 minutes of darkness before the earth will roll out of the shadow, and it only covers only just a handful of countries. The outside secular records as well as the biblical records said the entire earth was darkened for 3 hours. The moon can't do that. That's geometrically it's impossible. The math does not work out. You can't build a model on that. And it just, remember what science is pertaining to astronomy. If you can take misobserved phenomena, bring it into the laboratory and show that it's repeatable, that's science. And we have not just proving out the Chinese models, but we've proved out 14 instances in the biblical records and 5 secular where we believe that it's past. And there's mathematical evidence and as well as the sequence of events that people didn't have the knowledge of to fake. They didn't have the physics down. They didn't know that it could do this that level of events in that particular sequence of patterns. It's impossible for them to fake this. That's why when you find something that's fake, you can usually find an error in it, either in the science, the math, or something. When we use the proper science, which is the physics model, instead of the astronomy model, we're getting something that works out. That's running an exact match. And that gives us great concern. Because this object crosses Earth's path twice. Not once, twice. And it has roughly 150 to 152 day and separation between entry and exit. And the biblical records, which is a future event in Revelation, gives astounding information when you know how to process it on this next event. Okay, it crosses Earth's orbit twice. It's only by Earth one time, and that's in March, April event. The next, now it's on its way out. It's going out into deep space. 152 days later, Earth runs into the debris field of the second, wherever it came in at. The debris field that this thing going to leave behind will carry on for many years after. We will have sporadic meteor showers when we cross those 2 points again. So it only passes near Earth once. Now it should be in the month of March or April, roughly 3.5 days after Passover. We will have a sloshing effect in the Mediterranean, because the Bible even says it names 3 major towns on the Israeli coast, as well as the Nile area being wiped out. So you're going to have some tidal problems in the Mediterranean, but it won't be as severe as the oceans. The oceans, you're looking at waves that we've never seen normally. Every so often when a large ship hits what's called a freak wave, sometimes they'll snap the ship in half, because the gaps between the waves and the height of it causes too much stress in the middle of the hull, and the steel structure can't handle multiple hits like that. So even your larger ships will snap in half. The Bible talks about 1/3 of all the ships being destroyed. It talks about 1/3 of all of the trees and grass, and even the rivers and all of your fresh water above ground is going to be toxic. When meteors are made of material that can render fresh water not drinkable, at least for a month or two, until it settles out. And not counting the problems that we will have with all of the nuclear facilities not having fuel, or their cooling water, or their water in their rivers evacuate, therefore they don't. It only takes a few hours before a meltdown will start and be completely melted down within 8 to 12 hours later. It doesn't take long. And then after that, it'll make hydrogen, and then the top will blow off, just like it did in Fukushima. Right. We're looking at and that ain't counting all of the majority of the volcanoes going off. That's not counting when the half of the Earth that's facing the plasma of this comet tail, that's like a constant EMP wave hitting that side of the Earth. Chances of any electronics working after that are slim to none. So you're looking at no possible way of drawing water out of the ground unless it's manual. And chances are your water wells that you dug, the pipes that you used to dig the well will be sheared because of the shifting of the crust. We're brought back to the Stone Age, basically. And with most of the grass and trees burnt, and so it says people will wish death for 5 months before death comes, which is the second event. 152 and 1/8 days later, there'll be a second meteor shower. That one will come from the nighttime side. The one in March is on the daytime side, after a 12-hour delay in Earth's rotation on March. There will be no rotational delay in the end of August, or it's the beginning of September, depending on which month that it enters in. We may be hit by 2 meteors because the text is a little vague. It seems like it might be mentioned 2, but at least one of those is going to be the size of a mountain. And it will hit Earth so hard that Earth will wobble like a drunkard. Keep in mind, how would they get that correct in a way of, like, that's almost like a satellite view. Remember, he's not saying a hut in their village will shake. He's saying the whole Earth will shake like a hut. The Bible clearly says that this is the worst time in all of Earth's history. Noah's flood happened, and that's not the worst. This next time is. People need to get a deeper education before they jump onto the wagon of anything. Put your skepticism up. I did. I was a hardened skeptic on this planet. You have to, since nobody out there could prove to me that the planet was real, I did a search. I said, okay, if it did exist, it would be in the Chinese records. And to my surprise, it was. And then I had to try to find Achilles' heel to to eliminate it because I really didn't like the results. And I couldn't. The more I went, the further and deeper the data was there. It had to go 4 times around the sun before it came back to its original roughly 360-year orbit. They couldn't have guessed that. The way they did, the way the events were timed apart. Can't do it. They didn't have the knowledge to better write a fictional story to match it. See, it enters around this area here on Earth path, and then it circles the sun, and it comes out about here, exiting. Now, this is where March is at, March, April.
Okay.
Scenario here, okay?
Okay.
Then now the planet is heading outward. So now Earth is gonna travel 150 days, which is 152 and 1/8 days later. Now it runs into the debris field, which is left over. Okay? So every time Earth is gonna come around here, around in these 2 months right here, there's gonna be lingering debris that will rain on Earth a little bit. It shouldn't be as bad as these first 2 events, but it can be sizable. We just don't know, but it should get less and less. But these first 2 events are going to be some quite extreme events. This is the overlay from the Chinese, the Asian astronomers, not just the Chinese, but the Chinese, Korean, and Japanese astronomers that gave us enough information where we can plot a segment of its course. When we do this overlay through the biblical records, we get an exact match to the events. And in the text, it even states that, like for Sodom and Gomorrah, it mentions that Lot was feeding them unleavened bread. That's during the week of Passover. Guess what? That's March, April. Yeshua was crucified when? March or April. It passed so close to Earth, it causes to have a tilt because it's like 2 bar magnets, opposite poles attract, and they tilted towards each other. Okay? And it takes about 6 hours for its approach to do that. And as it's leaving, it takes 6 hours for it to straighten out roughly again. And it comes close to its original position. It could be anywhere from 3 to 7 degrees off. And that's what caused some of these mini ice ages before. Because our seasonal changes are caused by Earth's tilt, not by how close we are from the sun. Yeah, many cultures have put a flying disc because they're describing this object. Now, they'll give it different names because they didn't have word planet or anything like that. See, we even give it a name. I did. Planet 7X. It has multiple names. It's called Baal. It's called Jupiter. It's called Zeus. It's called Horus. It's called multiple pagan gods. Because that's what, it caused so much destruction. They were sacrificing, young babies even under Baal worship. Because of the severe drought, they would sacrifice children for this planet to give them their weather back. See, this is it's encyclopedia right here.
Okay.
This was in 1979, July 23rd. It states in there that the scientists at that time, remember this was before 92 when they went silent, they said it was 4.7 billion years away. Well, when we reverse the exact model, the Chinese model, on our orbit right here, look what we have. 4.67. Matter of fact, we have to add a year to that because I was estimating it being in 2016, but it probably will be 2017. So it's right on the mark. And this was in a Missing Encyclopedia. You can see here on another one right here. This is Science Digest of 1982, astronomy. They said between 4 to 7. Boy, they got big, didn't they? They separated the numbers. You saw how they had a point number on the other one, but this one they got 4 to 7 billion. Well, when we reverse it to the time frame, we get 4.3, or about 4.4 billion. So they're trying to stretch the numbers because they don't want to worry people. For some reason, areas were blacked out here, didn't handle this very well. Ames, okay, here's in the Ames research. The astronomers are so sure of a 10th planet that they think there's nothing left but to name it.